Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
The following is a presentation of Learfield. Welcome to Duck Insider.
Our whole athletic department, there's a level of expectations of success.
Throw, catch, touchdown, Oregon.
He can run and slam.
This is back out for a three. Left wing is good.
In the air to center, back at the wall. It's out of here.
Really excited that we get to rep our Ducks and hopefully come back to Eugene with some championships.
Indoor track and field national champion. And for the fourth time in the last 6 years, the Ducks are Pac-12 champions.
We have so many teams that are excelling right now, and it's really fun to be a part of.
Give it to me, baby. My house. I'm taking it there.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, here's Joey Mack.
Happy Friday, everybody. Big Oregon women's basketball game coming up tonight. The Ducks taking on the number 2 team in the country in the Stanford Cardinal, and only student-athlete families will be in attendance. Those of you Bay Area fans, I wish that you could go out and cheer on this team because I think it's a tremendous opportunity for Oregon women's basketball, especially as everybody is getting back healthier. Minute restrictions for Tahina Pau, for Niara Sabali. India Rogers, I think, a little bit better condition because her injury was to her hand. We're actually going to hear from India Rogers coming up a little later on in the show today. But overall, what I'm getting at is that they are healthier. And how many minutes that trio of returners plays, I don't know yet. But we'll find out at the 6:30 pregame show with Terry Johns across the Oregon Sports Network tonight, including a conversation with Kelly Graves, the Oregon women's basketball head coach. So that's coming up this evening. And, of course, the Ducks, after their matchup with the number 2 team in the country, you cannot forget about the matchup with Cal because one thing that we're going to do today is break down the entire Pac-12 landscape for women's basketball. And Cal gets overlooked, I think, because they're a traveling partner with Stanford. Golden Bears are pretty good this year. We're going to talk about that coming up. A few other things to get to today as well, including a bit of a surprise that some of you may have missed. I never know when we go on the holiday break, like people like me and Scott are still, neck deep in basketball and getting ready for a bowl game. And, but I hope that everybody else gets a chance to enjoy that for sure. We want to have you along for the ride with the Ducks, but there's also the vacation portion of your break. Well, during that vacation portion of the break, at least for our Duck Insider audience, we surprised Jerry Allen with something that was really, really cool. And I saved it for Friday. It felt like a feel-good thing on a Friday. So those of you who missed it, we did tweet about it on social media. But, man, Tinker and Toby, they just did something so special for Jerry Allen. And we're going to talk about that coming up a little bit later on. Emmanuel Yuma J with a heck of an honor, that in a moment. And we're also going to hear more from Kelly Graves, head coach Oregon women's basketball, some of his thoughts from his press conference this week. We didn't get to all of it yesterday as we spent a good amount of time talking with Georgie about Oregon football. The rest of Kelly Graves' press conference for you coming up. And continuing introductions for the Oregon football staff. Still a few more announcements to come, but the ones that have been announced, we're going to talk to you about them a little bit. The guys who have been announced this week, you've heard about them on Duck Insider, but maybe you missed it over the break. Some big names have been added to this Oregon football staff. We'll talk about that. And today also was an exciting day for anybody who likes to watch stuff blow up, because the Reser Stadium press box on the west side came down today. I know it's Duck Insider, but trust me, stick around. You're not going to want to miss that. Let's start with Emmanuel Yuma J. On the strength of his breakout 2021 campaign, the 2-time NCAA champion in the triple jump and Olympic finalist, Emmanuel Yuma J has been named to the Bowerman preseason watch list. Additionally, reigning NCAA 60-meter champions Kevin Nelson and Makai Williams are receiving votes in the first release of the year. The women's preseason list was revealed on Wednesday. In his first competition as a Duck, no big deal, Yuma J broke the indoor school record with a pretty impressive mark in the Razorback Invitational last year. He entered the NCAA championships with the 6th best qualifying mark, but opened pretty much everybody's eyes with his title-winning jump of 17.26 meters, which is really good. That was at the national meet. With the effort, Yuma J became the number 6 indoor performer in collegiate history as a freshman. in collegiate history as a freshman. He's from Italy, and the native of Italy began the outdoor season with a win at the Hayward Premier. And he was the top qualifier at the NCAA West Preliminary, and then in front of that home crowd at Hayward Field, he secured his second national title 2 weeks later at the NCAA Championships. Yuma J had a day's best mark and was, historic, to say the least. Put him among the top 15 outdoor performers in NCAA history with his 17.14 meter. Impressive. Representing his home country of Italy at the Tokyo Olympics, Yuma J advanced to the finals where he finished 11th in his Olympic debut. Not bad, huh? 11th in your Olympic debut. And with the announcement yesterday, Yuma J becomes the 10th Oregon man and first jumper to earn a spot on the watch list for the Bowerman. How about that, though? First jumper from Oregon ever on the watch list for the Bowerman. Named for legendary Oregon coach Bill Bowerman, first awarded in 2009, the Bowerman is presented annually the most outstanding men's and women's performers in collegiate track and field. This is the Heisman of track and field. 5 Ducks have won the Bowerman: Galen Rupp, Ashton Eaton, Laura Raisler, Jenna Prandini, Raven Rogers. Not bad. The next updates for the watch list will be on February 2nd for the women and on February 3rd for the men. Oregon set to open the 2022 indoor season a week from today at the Cougar Classic in Spokane, Washington, January 14th through 15th. Full preview of that coming next week. GoDucks.com will have you covered, of course. But congratulations to Emmanuel Yuma J, Bowerman watch list. I think it's impressive that he's the first jumper ever, which tells you about, I understand the history of Oregon, particularly in track and field, is in distance running. But then I think under Robert Johnson, it's safe to say that there have been probably the most successful sprinters in Oregon history. I think about some like Raven Rogers, right, who has won the Bowerman. Prandini, who has won the Bowerman. I mean, I look at those names, and it's like there have been in the last few years some very, very, very impressive sprinters. By the way, every time I read the list of Oregon athletes who have won the Bowerman, Edward Cheserek got hosed. More NCAA championships than any man in history. He's the king for a reason. Every time I read that list, I'm always going like, how did Edward Cheserek, how? I don't even remember who won that year. Scott just asked me. I think, was it someone from LSU? I don't know. Research project for Scott Phillips. But I've blocked it out of my memory because I just think it's crazy that he never won the Bowerman. Anyway, today I do want to also put it out there for everybody tuning in. What is everybody else thinking about today? We're going to do a lot of basketball preview, and the spring sports are starting to practice. Yesterday, if you saw it on the Oregon baseball Instagram, RJ Gordon did a day in the life, which means that baseball is officially around the corner, which is pretty cool. But any questions that fans have for me today on the Facebook comments, YouTube comments, Twitter comments, let me know if you're live with us in the 1 o'clock hour. Let's talk a little bit of women's basketball. The conference schedule and standings. Kelly Graves said during his press conference that this is kind of like season 2 now for the Ducks. They're kind of like they're in another November where everybody's building back up. Those that were injured in Tina Paopao, India Rogers, and Niara Sabali, they're building back up toward being full strength. Well, we're going to get a heck of a test here tonight against number 2 Stanford. They're 1-0 in conference, 9-3 overall. And then right now, because so few games have been played in the Pac-12 standings for the women, Washington State is actually officially in second place because they're 1-1, but they're 9-4 overall. Colorado, man, really, really sad what's happened in Boulder and all of the evacuations that have taken place around there. It's impacted the school, the entire community. In fact, the head coach, JR, good friend of Kelly Graves, he actually called her, and she was evacuating with her family when Kelly Graves had her on the phone. KG talked about that on Tip-Off Tuesday, and man, that is just devastating. Can only imagine. And then the number 4 team in the country, Arizona, is 10-0. Arizona and Stanford are both ranked in the top 4, which that shouldn't surprise you since they both played for the national championship last year. Utah's 8-3, Oregon State 7-3, USC 7-3, and then you get the Ducks at 7-4, coming off that win over Carroll College. They didn't get a chance last week to play Colorado and play Utah due to COVID protocols within those programs, but the Ducks do get a big opportunity tonight against Stanford. UCLA's 5-3, Washington's 5-3, Arizona State is 8-5, and then, oh, by the way, there's Cal. Cal is 9-3. 9-3 right now. So, did you notice that nobody there had a losing record? Not a single team has a losing record right now in women's basketball in the Pac-12. But there's your standings. So what does that mean for the Ducks? Well, the Ducks have had a couple tough losses on their schedule. Really, though, one tough loss, I think. They lost to South Carolina. That's the number 1 team in the country. They lost to a top 25 team in USF. They were shorthanded at the time. The one loss, I think, and then Kansas State, I should say, lost to Kansas State on the road before their Northwestern game got canceled due to COVID protocol. The one game that Kelly Graves is upset about on the women's side for the Ducks is UC Davis. They lost that game 64-57. Yes, they were a little shorthanded, but the Ducks just didn't play all that well, is what Kelly Graves, I remember saying. That's what he said after that game. So the Ducks sitting at 7-4. What does this mean for their NCAA tournament resume? Well, look, we all know if you get a win on the road against the number 2 team in the nation that's in the early going, looks like the best team in the conference, maybe Arizona would have something to say about that. This is a huge opportunity for the Ducks. Now, if you lose this game on the road, I don't think the sky is falling, particularly as everybody still works their way back to being healthy. I don't think the sky is falling at all. But it's a big opportunity for the Ducks. So there's your breakdown of women's basketball around the Pac-12. And when we come back, I want to talk more about Oregon and Stanford in particular. How do you go about beating this Stanford team? We'll talk about that. And then Tobiah asking, what about Oregon men's basketball? Oh, Tobiah, the show is young, my friend. We'll get there after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
Don't go anywhere. Duck Insider continues after these messages on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
It's 4 a.m., Monday, and you're literally sucking baby snot through a tube because she's congested. Man, that's love. And if you love her that much, love her enough to make sure she's buckled in the right car seat. To make sure your child's in the right seat for their age and size, visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
America, your children have an amazing superpower. They can help save lives by not having play dates. That's right. By replacing get-togethers with virtual play dates and video chats, they can help slow the evil spread of germs. And if your superheroes do go outside, make sure they continue their superhero wing by staying 6 feet away from others to protect everyone in America land. Find out more at coronavirus.gov. A message from the CDC and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack here with you in the Country Financial Studio. Talking about men's basketball, I want to get into them in a little bit. Of course, Oregon men postponed tomorrow against Oregon State. We'll talk about the greater picture of the Pac-12 on the men's side in a moment. But for this Oregon women's team, Stanford traditionally is always solid, right? They always seem to have, at least on the women's side, they always seem to have that one go-to scorer. But then it's the support roles that just know exactly what they need to do. That's a great coach, right? Well, it's maybe the best coach in the history of the women's game at the helm for Stanford and Tara Vanderveer. So how do you go about beating them? I think it's going to come down to a few things. One, how effective is Niara Sabally when she's in there, right? It's a little bit, and you'll have to forgive me making the comparison for the men's side because I'm around the men's team more. I'm at practice more often. Coach Altman talks about, you have to have those hard 20 minutes from N'Faly Dante. I think if you get the same, the hard 20 minutes from Niara Sabally, man, she might be the best post out there. I think back to what she did in the game against Wisconsin this year. And Terry Johns actually said this, and look, Terry's the expert. We know that. But in that game, he thought that her performance, I said Wisconsin, I meant Oklahoma. That game, Terry Johns thought that Niara Sabaly's performance was the best he had ever seen from a post player. Just a dominant performance in that game. She scored 30 points on 11 of 19 from the floor. I'm not saying you have to get that performance to beat Stanford. It would help. But I think that the making the most of Niara Sabaly's minutes, big key tonight. 2, Te-Hina Paopao. What does Te-Hina Paopao look like, and is she in better shape after she came back against Carroll College? Because I remember one of the things talking about post-game was her getting back into shape is going to really matter. Ducks are going to need the valuable minutes from her. And then I think lastly, Sydney Parrish is my X factor. I feel like Sydney Parrish, anytime the Ducks are going to blow someone out, Sydney Parrish probably has a really nice game. Well, you might need to play as if you're blowing out any other team to beat Stanford on the road, because Stanford's going to be raring to go. That's a good squad with the Stanford Cardinal. We knew it, defending national champions for good reason, and even though they lost to Texas early in the year, they also lost to that same South Florida team that beat Oregon, believe it or not, and they lost to South Carolina by 4 points. This is still the number 2 team in the country. I'm curious to see the way that the Ducks perform against this squad. I think it's going to be a fun matchup. So does Kelly Graves, as he talked with the media. We heard part 1 of his press conference for you on the show yesterday. Part 2, Kelly Graves previewing the trip to the Bay Area for the Ducks, 6:30 pregame tonight on the Oregon Sports Network. Here's KG.
Yeah, looking at Stanford as this, first matchup that you guys have on this trip, a lot of the commodities on that team, but what is it about, especially Brink and Haley up front, that have kind of transformed how that team has been after, a couple years where it seems like they're very dominant on Kiana and the work that she kind of puts in the backcourt. Now it seems like they're more front court oriented. What is it about them that's changed in the last year?
Well, I think that's what has made Stanford so great over the last 30 years, ever since Tara got there. The personnel changes, but the system, the culture, the way they do things every day, I guess that's culture, but it doesn't change. So, they from the day they step on foot, they run a certain style, certain system, and those kids really get good at it. They have not, and they're able to keep their players for a long time. And so they just play at a really high level. They don't beat themselves. They space the floor really well. They have playmakers, have players who execute and understand their roles. And then you've got, they always have the elite player or two. You mentioned Kiana. They don't have anybody like Kiana now. So they're running the ball, the point through either Lacey Hull or Jones a lot more. And so they're different. It makes it unique. Cameron Brink is a special talent inside. They always seem to have a really good 4 player. If you look back from the Ogunwa case, well, heck, even before then, they always seem to have that really nice 4 or 5. And they got the right pieces. They can shoot it. They can put the ball on the floor. Their guards can post. Their posts can attack the basket from the outside. They just don't have many holes. So you've got to beat them. And we've had some success against them over the last 5 or 6 years. But you just, you've got to beat them because they're not going to beat themselves.
I know Te-Hina joked about being really, really tired after the Carroll game. And how much do you think she'll be able to give against Stanford? Is it going to be just a matter of throwing her out there and letting her play herself into shape, sort of?
I have not been told if we have a minute restriction. My guess is that we will. but it'll be more than the 12 minutes we were told they could play this last game. But that's okay. I don't know if they're capable of playing 25 or 30 minutes right now, to be honest with you, not only with just coming back, but just their conditioning level, not having been able to do much. But it's going to be more and more with each game. And I'm assuming in a week or two, they'll be back to full speed in terms of the number of minutes that they can play.
I know you've talked in here about preaching patience, but is that difficult for you when you've got 3 top 10, top 12, I guess, with UConn being kind of nicked up, quality opponents coming up, which offers for you guys for a tournament resume, the ability to, make some really big strides. And, I know that you've got kids that are coming in and, possibly working on certain minutes, but, the necessity for wins in these matchups are there. Is it hard to kind of balance those two competing philosophies a bit?
Sure. And, it's unfortunate we have this kind of schedule now because we're not going to be at our best. We're going to work our butts off and certainly compete and have a chance to win all of them. There's no question about it. But, we won't be in kind of our stride. But yeah, at some point we got to get some wins, to strengthen our resume, so to speak. It's way too early to tell you. And I know people are worried about, well, you're on the bubble here. Really? It's first week in January. We haven't even played with our whole team yet. We just need to compete in the Pac-12 like we're capable. We're going to have enough opportunities to get quality wins to get ourselves in the field. But that being said, yeah, Pac-12 did not do us any favors. And it's actually a little bit disappointing because when you play an intersectional game during conference play, you would like to think that the Pac-12 would help you as much as possible. Now, that being said, there are no gimme weekends, but at least maybe don't have us go at Stanford and then, come home and play another Final Four team, Arizona, and always a tough out, Arizona State, and then UConn. I mean, that's just, that's the gauntlet. And we're doing this for the rest of the conference. We need this year more than ever. We don't have a ton of kind of intersectional wins against power conference teams. So, we're going to just have to manage it, though. We've known about it, and we're going to just have to do the best we can and go out and play the best we can, and hopefully that's enough.
What are the 1 or 2 things that you're kind of most hoping to see out of your team on Friday with all the kind of previously mentioned caveats?
Well, we're really trying to simplify the offense now. We've had to try to really manufacture scores and things like that. I think now we have players who can, space the floor better. They're better in the pick and roll action. Now we've got actually a really deep low post scoring threat in Niara. You've got 2 playmakers out of the pick and roll in India and Tahina. And that it changes us. We can spread the floor more and really simplify what we're doing. I think so. Number one, I'd really like to see us offensively just space the floor and be more patient. And then at the defensive end, you guys, listen, they test you. They test your fundamentals. Everything that you don't do right, they will exploit. And so we've got to be on our game defensively. We've got to do a great job of stopping them in transition because they're very good there, of communicating because they have so many multiple actions that require, they're not a kind of a clear out team, isolation team. They've got just multiple actions. So you have to be on your game and communicating and really dialed into the personnel. And then lastly, they're really good on the boards. And it's not just Brink and Bellaby inside. It's their guards rebound. The holes, they need to leave. I mean, they've been there forever and they're really, really good. And every time you watch it and you see not just one, you see 2 of them. So it makes it seem like there's so many. And then Haley Jones. So they're just really good. And so defensively, we just have to play sound.
I know it's on the back end of the trip here, but Cal's looked definitely a little bit better markedly than they were last year. That freshman they have, Curry, has been really, really good. What, again, just kind of on a difference between where they were last year and where they are this year? I know one player is a pretty obvious answer, but how have they just kind of improved and what jumps out on them on tape this year?
Well, I think their talent is a little bit better. A lot of the same faces, but Andrew, I think a big part of it for them is they've been able to practice. Last year, them and Stanford, their counties were very strict. And so I just don't think they were given the opportunity to really practice much last year. Plus they had some injuries. And you can tell that they just are more cohesive this year. And those parts that they've had that were pretty good are playing well together. So I have not watched a lot of Cal yet. I mean, Stanford's taking all my attention right now. I will kind of take a peek at them tonight. You hate to look too far ahead. You have to, because you don't have a ton of time to prepare. But at the same time, it's that one game at a time mentality. And I personally have put my attention into Stanford. But from a periphery, I have watched them, and certainly better.
Coach Graves from this week, and you can hear it's a big matchup. They've got a lot of talent. We know that. He ran through a lot of the names. I've seen some of the comments coming in. I agree. Emmanuel Yuma says guards will need to be locked in defensively because their lack of a true point guard is a weakness for them. Good catch. I think that's a great point. And I feel like that's where Oregon maybe does have the advantage because Matty Shear had to be kind of forced into that role. The Ducks have a lot of great guard play when they're at their best, right, and when they're at full strength. I think that Oregon's guards, their backcourt, I mean, you give me India Rogers, you give me Matty Shear, you give me Tahina Pau. I mean, I don't know. Find me another better backcourt for the Ducks around the country. But both, maybe not just offensively, but defensively. I think Matty Shear is probably the best on-ball defender. We'll see. I think we'll see what happens. But I think this is a tremendous opportunity. Great matchup. I'm really looking forward to it. When we come back, speaking of India Rogers, we're actually going to hear from her. Terry John's got a chance to get to know her a little bit. One of the first interviews she's ever done. India Rogers next on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
At Shadow Hills Country Club, our all-inclusive event pricing allows us to take care of all of the details while you enjoy your event. Our wedding garden, expansive grounds, ballroom, and meeting rooms can accommodate any size event and come complete with full catering and service staff. From weddings to business and social events, Shadow Hills offers the benefits of a resort atmosphere and the peace of a country setting just minutes from downtown Eugene. For more details, call us today or go to shadowhillsevents.com.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Duck Insider continues after this timeout on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Oh, I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
Hey, so what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
We continue on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. You guessed it. Tonight's matchup with Stanford is our Toyota Women's Sports Schedule Spotlight. Been talking about it this entire show, and, well, we're going to get to know someone who has played against Stanford a time or two in her career at USC, not at Oregon. Now, we got to know India Rogers a little bit. As Terry Johns talked with her, one of the first times she's actually done an interview like this. We learned a lot, including what I thought was a really interesting and candid story about the recruiting process. And really, it was a recruiting process, not just for Oregon wanting her to come play here in Eugene, but also for her and her examination of the University of Oregon. A lot of good stuff getting to know India Rogers.
Okay, India, first of all, you transferred here from USC, and you don't need to say why you wanted to leave, but how hard of a decision was that to, you settled into USC for 2 years and then to leave? It must have been a tough decision to decide I want to transfer.
So when I'm making my decision, I knew that I wanted to stay Pac-12, great conference, great coaches, great players, all those good things. And then I didn't really want to move my stuff across the country again. But I knew that I wanted to stay in the Pac-12. And it's crazy because I kind of had a feeling of who would reach out to me from the Pac-12. And when every time we would travel to Arizona, I would always be like, man, like I could play here. I could play for this coach. I would do all that. But once it was decision time, I felt like Oregon was the place for me. So
what stood out about Oregon?
Kelly is like, he won at Gonzaga. He comes here, he wins here. So, I mean, it's clear that he knows what he's doing. I think it was just, I was kind of, I don't want to say amazed, but there was like a lot of stuff being said about Oregon, and I was like, I beg to differ.
You saw it firsthand.
Yeah, it was just different because when I would come down, we came down here at USC to play them. I told myself I could never play. I couldn't play here because it's just, the town just looked a little, it was because I'm from a city and I played in a city of LA. So it was just a little different. But once I got around and they showed me around, I was like, oh, it's not that bad how people were saying it was. So I was kind of a little shocked at what I saw when I got here. And then Kelly, he's just a big guy. He's the big guy. He's fun.
And KG's put some pretty good guards in the league, hasn't he? He kind of knows what to do with guards. And other players too, but guards.
Yeah, he has. Vandersloot, Sabrina.
Yeah, Maite has played in the league too.
Yeah, I remember actually kind of watching her play too. But yeah, he has. He has put some pretty good guards in the league.
What have you learned from, because you were there when Sabrina was a senior? Did you learn some things playing against her?
I can't even tell you. I don't even remember playing against her. But I kind of do remember watching her. It's like she doesn't let the game get bigger than her. Yeah. If that makes sense. She's very patient. She, no matter what, she's going to stay here. She's not going to get too high or too low. She played her role very well. You could tell. She was just all around good. I mean, you saw she was a triple-double. I mean, yeah, it was a triple-double leader. She just did everything the right way.
Yeah.
She never was too high, too low. Everybody knew, the Sabrina they would get. Maybe she wouldn't have a good shooting night, but she's going to assist and rebound,
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen opposing coaches say that she makes you play at her speed.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a pretty good example of who she is, of what way she does play.
Yeah, she never let the game get bigger than her. They could probably send 3 at her and she would still be, she'd still get a great possession.
You're from Dallas, Texas. Tell us about your family that's back in Dallas.
Well, I have 2 younger brothers. One just turned 19 today, actually. I have a 5-year-old brother. My dad trained me. My mom, both of them, my dad and mom went to high school and college together. My mom, she was a track athlete, but she just played basketball on the side, Mm-hmm. But my dad was the basketball star. So he was the one who trained me and my brother.
When did you start playing basketball? What age? You remember?
Apparently I was dribbling a ball at 11 months, but I actually started playing at probably 3 or 4. And they would always say I was extra serious. I would Like if I got subbed out the game, I would yell at my dad when you subbed me out the game. Put me back in the game. What are you doing? But yeah, I used to be pretty serious when I was younger. I mean, I'm serious now, but it's like, you know, when you're young, you just like anxious a little.
Yeah. Did you play any other sports?
I played volleyball in middle school. I played volleyball in middle school. And I was actually good. I was like the setter and the libero for the team. So, yeah, if I didn't play basketball, I would have been playing volleyball.
Yeah. There's some good volleyball in the Pac-12 too, isn't there? Absolutely.
Yeah.
What it was from Dallas? I'm curious. Let's see what food in Dallas. What Tex-Mex? There's a barbecue, or you go with something else. What's your favorite?
So it just depends on what you like to eat. I'm like a big seafood person. So there's a lot of like boiled seafood around that's really good.
All right, let's come back here to Oregon now. Playing with the Ducks, you guys have been injured. You were one, and I don't know if you've ever been injured before to miss games. Had you?
I haven't been. Actually, when I was at USC, I sprained my ankle, and then ever since that one game in the beginning of Pac-12, that ankle just never got right. So I ended up playing with a bone bruise or bone contusion my whole freshman season, bone contusion. I would have cramps all the way up my calf. My ankle would be throbbing after the games, or anytime like I sat down, like I go pound, 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 pound. Anytime I sat down, throbbing. But you know, I was the tough guy, and I still got out there and played because I didn't care about a bone contusion as long as it wasn't broke. But when I came here, I would always say like, "Y'all, I've never been injured. I've never been injured, and I had to miss games. Never." So it was kind of shocking that I had to miss that many games for a finger. But when I realized like I couldn't move and it was pain up my arm, I was like,
"That's different."
I don't know what. Yeah, I was like, because it wasn't even my finger. I realized it wasn't even my finger. I just couldn't move it. So, yeah, it was a different experience. I have never been like this big cheer. I've never cheered on the bench so hard until I got here. I never used to even know how to cheer on the bench when I was in high school.
You came back. Kansas State had a great game, had a good game last night, yesterday afternoon. And then now Tahina getting back. Niara, limited minutes for them still. And it's going to be tough to go against Stanford. You wish you had them for, 2025, but it's not going to be that way. But you can see what this team can be, aren't you?
I can. Like I said, before, I was just talking about this earlier. When everybody was healthy, we were good. At first, we were all in shape. We were in sync. It was like that first exhibition game, even though we kind of blew the team out. It was fun. Like we at least knew like what we were doing, who could do what. But now it's just like, it's hard, man.
Yeah.
Hard because clearly T and E are on limited minutes, and then it's just like trying to get the chemistry back and get into the swing of things. So it'll probably be a couple more games, couple more practices until we really, really get it. Because we were before this season started, we were a different team. Like we were a totally different team. It was crazy. Like we were a good team. So now we're just trying to get back into the swing of things. It's not all that easy because NDT and ER, but it's not easy. But we're trying. Yeah,
the chemistry will come. It was there before, and it'll be back.
It kind of feels like we're back in preseason all over again because we're all of us are trying to get in shape, and then we have to build the chemistry. It just kind of feels like we're in preseason all over again, which isn't a bad thing. But we just have to work. sucks that it happened at this time, but
Yep. Well, Andy, that's all the time I got for you. But hey, thanks for letting us get to know you a little bit.
thank you. See you guys next time.
It will be a next time. Andy Rogers, that was great getting to know her a little bit. My thanks to Terry Johns for going through all of that. When we return, we got women's basketball tonight, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip-off. Oregon Sports Network with Terry Johns, Pac-12 Network broadcast as well. We're going to talk a little men's basketball and then a cool surprise for the man, Jerry Allen. Back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, you can't stop a new 2022 Toyota. No matter the weather, the Camry all-wheel drive comes out to play. Snowy hills don't stand a chance against the RAV4, and everyone's comfy in the Highlander. See you in the snow. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a country financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local country representative.
Dear winter, you can't stop a new 2022 Toyota. No matter the weather, the Camry all-wheel drive comes out to play. Snowy hills don't stand a chance against the RAV4, and everyone's comfy in the Highlander. See you in the snow. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
Duck Insider, your home for the latest news on Oregon athletics on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Jill, why don't you tell the class what you did this weekend?
Well, my dad and I went in search of some magical minnows and found a zillion of them in the stream from our lookout rock. Then my sister and I escaped from an evil slug king and went back to my super twig fort for safety. Then we told stories till it got dark, and the Big Dipper led us all the way home.
Wow. Where were you, Jill?
We went to the forest. It's not that far away.
Ask your parents to take you and your friends to the forest this week. It's closer than you think. Check out discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack in the Country Financial Studio. Oregon women's basketball in action tonight. Terry Johns with a 6:30 pregame and a 7 o'clock tip-off for the Ducks against number 2 Stanford. Today's show is brought to you by Hoodoo Ski Area. Dig into deep savings. Get your season pass now, hoodoo.com. Men's basketball, unfortunately, not in action tomorrow. COVID protocol within the Ducks program. We'll let you know on new dates for potentially the Colorado game and this Oregon State game that was scheduled for tomorrow. So no men's basketball for the Ducks this weekend. And what does that mean for Oregon's conference standings? Well, if you take a look at the entire Pac-12, it's safe to say that the two top 10 teams in USC, Arizona, and UCLA have really separated themselves. So that's what Dana Altman was talking with us about earlier this week. USC is the number 7 team in the country. They're 13-0, and they're 3-0 in conference. Arizona, number 8 in the country. They're 12-1, and they're coming off a huge win over Washington, and they're 2-0 in Pac-12 play. UCLA has been in a COVID protocol pause themselves, but they're still the number 5 team in the country. Their only loss is to, well, a really good Gonzaga team, and UCLA is 1-0 in Pac-12 play. Colorado don't look now as 10-3 and 2-1 in conference. Cal is 9-6. Mark Fox has got them winning some non-conference games, 2-2 in conference so far to start. Stanford's 8-4, 1-1 in Pac-12 play. The one win, of course, against the Ducks. Washington continuing to struggle. They're 6-6 and 1-1 in Pac-12 play. Then it's the Ducks officially at 1-2 in conference and 8-6 overall. Wazoo's also 8-6 and 1-2. ASU's 5-8 and 1-2. Oregon State, a rough season. They're 3-10 overall, 1-2 in Pac-12 play, and then Utah, rough season for them as well, 8-7 overall, 1-4 in conference action. So what does all that mean? Well, it means that Oregon has some work to be done, because if you look at those Pac-12 standings, it's definitely you're chasing the 3 tournament teams, and maybe Colorado's a tournament team right now. USC, Arizona, UCLA are tournament teams, and they're probably top 4, top 3 seeds right now. And then it's everybody else. Colorado, Probably if the tournament started today, I would say they're in. But other than that, from the Pac-12, probably don't have anybody else in. So if you're the Ducks, what does that mean? Well, certainly getting a win over a team like Oregon State, who has really struggled this year, got to take care of business against Oregon State. And then the Ducks, if everything goes according to plan, will travel to the LA schools next week. Should Oregon lose to UCLA and USC, I don't think that that's the end of the world for their conference standings. But one win at least on that road trip would go a long way. Then the Ducks are back at home, but it's against Washington State and Washington. I think those are must-wins if the Ducks are going to go to the tournament. And then they're scheduled at the end of January to play Oregon State again. We'll see what happens with the rescheduled game in Corvallis, but this one is supposed to be in Eugene. I think that's also a must-win. Then I think one of the critical games is in Boulder. We all know that the Ducks have struggled at Colorado. Not struggled, they've been bad at Colorado, unfortunately. But if the Ducks could take care of business in that game, and if they're able to get that game against Colorado that was supposed to be at Matthew Knight Arena rescheduled, I think those could be the key games for the Ducks. Because then suddenly Oregon's probably fourth place in the standings. You get a win against Utah, and we're coming into what is usually when Dana Altman tends to figure these things out right around Valentine's Day. The Ducks would play Stanford and Cal at home on February 10th and 12th. And again, I know all of this, we'll see. It's got to go according to plan scheduling-wise. But that's why I think even if the Ducks go on the road and drop those games on the LA trip, it's winnable games, and it's frankly probably must-win games. They want to make the NCAA tournament until you get to Valentine's Day. Now, Dana Altman's teams have the best record in the Pac-12 in the Dana Altman tenure here at Oregon. They have the best record in the Pac-12 after Valentine's Day over the last 12 years under Coach Altman. Right after Valentine's Day, guess what? The Ducks make the Arizona trip. ASU's been a tough place to play for the Ducks, and then you got to play Arizona. I feel like that's going to be when we're going to know. If the Ducks take care of business in those games that I was just talking through there, I think I like Oregon's chances. But first and foremost, got to get healthy. And we'll have updates on that when we're back on Duck Insider on Monday. Meanwhile, for men's basketball, we had an awesome matchup with Baylor. The Ducks almost pulled that big resume upset against the Baylor Bears earlier this year, the maybe best team in the country still in Baylor. Well, we also had a little bit of a surprise for Jerry Allen. So I want to give you some context. This all started on the trip to Ohio State. Tinker Hatfield was drawing something on his iPad, and he brought it back to the plane where Jerry was sitting, and he showed Jerry. And it was a rendering of shoes. Well, of course, if it's Tinker Hatfield. Well, these are for Jerry Allen commemorating his 35th Oregon football season behind the mic. Jerry had no idea this was coming. He was on the broadcast with me. And then we did this on the board show. Many of you saw it inside Matthew Knight Arena.
For 35 years, he's called the biggest moments in Oregon athletics.
Kenny Wayne's gonna score! Kenny Wayne is gonna score!
Oregon is going to the Final Four! Yeah, it's happening! Final score! Final Four! And fans everywhere, 114 years they've waited, and Oregon is gonna play in the national championship game. Can you believe the magical season this has become? Unbelievable to have been a part of this. Jerry Allen, the voice of the Ducks.
Well, joined by Oregon Athletic Director Rob Mullins, Nike designer Tinker Hatfield, Toby Hatfield, Jerry Allen being presented a pair of customized Nike shoes designed to commemorate his 35 years as the radio voice of your Oregon Ducks. Congratulations, Jerry.
Pretty amazing, huh, everybody? Wanted to make sure that we kept the broadcast here for this as Jerry's being presented. Some artwork that Tinker Hatfield put together commemorating the shoes. The box is outstanding. The floor of Matthew Knight Arena, when you open up the custom wooden box, is on top of it, and then it's a look-alike Autzen turf
underneath the custom shoes with a 35 on the tongue after Jerry Allen's 35th football season, calling games for the voice of the Ducks. The box says Jerry Allen, voice of the Ducks, on the box. And Tinker Hatfield presenting it to him. And you can only imagine how cool it is, thanks to Tinker and everybody else. So we kept the broadcast on site for all of that during a timeout. Normally, what you see during those timeouts at Matthew Knight Arena, that's when the radio audience, TV audience are obviously looking at commercials. You could hear it in my voice, man. I was excited just to finally – this was like a huge surprise. It was like a huge surprise. And Scott's, those of you who are watching, just take a look at these things. So it was a huge surprise for Jerry. Like, he didn't know this was coming. And I tweeted this, and I'll reiterate it because this is kind of the, in case you missed it. He is the first to say that he doesn't want nor deserve, recognition and cool things like this. And he was also the first to say, well, it's not just me. It's Jorgie who's been doing this for 33 years now. It's John Lundquist, who actually has been Jerry's statistician and is now my statistician for basketball games. He's been Jerry's statistician since the beginning for 35 years. And it's Terry Johns, who has been engineering for Jerry before he was the voice of the Oregon women's team and engineering football broadcasts and spotting for him. He always says that it's a team, and this is a team award. Well, I'm going to sit here and tell you right now that we very much appreciate that Jerry views it that way, and because he views it that way, that is exactly why he deserves a cool recognition like this. So it was awesome. So my thanks to Tinker, to Toby for presenting it to him, to Josh Phillips for helping us get some of the pictures, Scott Phillips putting together the tribute video. Obviously, you heard my schmuck of a voice doing the voiceover. Rachel Doyle and Alexis from the Oregon marketing team, they helped us kind of pull off the surprise. Justin Fisher from the Duck Athletic Fund helped us pull off the surprise. It really was a team effort in order to surprise a man who absolutely deserves a great recognition like this. Tobias says, I'd like to see a building in Jerry's name someday. Well, Tobias, I can tell you, Jerry's going to hate that I'm about to say this out loud, but there is no way that we are not naming the broadcast booth the Jerry Allen broadcast booth. As long as I'm here and as long as I have any say in the matter, which I don't, but I'm going to try, there's no way that we're not doing that. So to Jerry Allen, thanks, buddy. I couldn't have asked for a better mentor. I mean, I lucked into that one, didn't I? I always tell our interns, anybody who asks me for advice, like, yeah, you make your own luck, and yeah, you got to be prepared, you got to do all the right things, but having someone like Jerry coach you, which is really what he's done for me in broadcasting, yeah, priceless. Exactly. Scott Phillips said it best. So in case any of you missed that over the break, figured it was a good way to finish up a Friday. But you know what's a better way to finish up a Friday? Another top 25 ranking for Oregon baseball, another USA softball national team member, and blowing up a press box. We're back after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Dear winter, you can't stop a new 2022 Toyota. No matter the weather, the Camry all-wheel drive comes out to play. Snowy hills don't stand a chance against the RAV4, and everyone's comfy in the Highlander. See you in the snow. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
Dear winter, you can't stop a new 2022 Toyota. No matter the weather, the Camry all-wheel drive comes out to play. Snowy hills don't stand a chance against the RAV4, and everyone's comfy in the Highlander. See you in the snow. Find yours at Toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
This is Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield.
Hey, son. How are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
What's on your mind?
I can't explain it. Navigating without a compass, eyes waiting, started to wonder. Metamorphosis, the loss of who you thought you were.
When your kid can't find the language, help them find the lyrics. Listen to the Sound It Out album and get tips and tools to start a conversation at sounditouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
We welcome you back to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. All right, so I'm just going to read something from Utah State football Twitter, quote tweeting Oregon State football's tweet of the press box blowing up this morning. Geez, guys, it was only a bowl game. I mean, I didn't send the tweet out. I just thought that was really funny. Reser Stadium, though, if you missed it, courtesy to Oregon State University, they blew up the west side of Reser Stadium today. The press box has come down as their renovation project begins. And, there are some great memories calling games there for me, and there's even more for Jerry and Jorgie. But maybe none better than, if you're a Duck fan, than Marcus Mariota. The famous image that Brian Davies from the Register Guard captured the best angle of it. Scott's got it on the wall. Marcus Mariota with that Heisman stiff arm. Yeah, that was at Reser Stadium. And, well, the call was happening from the press box that is now sitting in the parking lot at Reser Stadium. Pretty amazing, though, anytime you get a chance to see it from Oregon State University. Yeah, Reser Stadium, they're working on it, and it's going to be a new look next time we're up there. Also, one of the favorite memories for me at Reser Stadium, I was Jody McMurdy one time, and I still have the press credential, for anybody ever wondering. But this is actually one that says Joseph McMuddy. Look at that. One, no one ever calls me Joseph. McMuddy. Who knew McMuddy was a name? Great memories in the Reser Stadium press box. Also, the coldest I've ever been was in that press box. Well, that's a good way to end the weekend. Or get into the weekend. Hey, go Ducks tonight. Get a win over the number 2 team in the country in Palo Alto, huh? 6:30 pregame with Terry Johns.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services,